Welcome. Another day of Bhagavad Gita. Oops, Sadhana. It's raining. I thought I had the computer out of the rain. Okay, I think this will work. Hello. It's wonderful to see you again to talk about Bhagavad Gita and the idea of being yourself. And I got a wonderful question. I love interacting with you, and thank you for sending this particular question. I was asked to elaborate more on the idea of killing versus violence. And I was thinking about it, and I could probably spend an hour doing just that, but we don't have an hour. So, to try to summarize and to try not to go too long, I'm keeping my eye on the time. The Bhagavad Gita represents so many things, but one thing that we can probably all relate to is it represents Arjun's spiritual maturity. It's his rite of passage from a simplistic view of the world to a more complex view of the world. One of the things that, sorry, it's raining, Arjuna asks in chapter 1 is basically, what do I do in my life? I am a warrior and I'm meant to kill. However, and he's killed people before. And he's been raised with this idea of ahimsa, nonviolence, which is spelled out in many spiritual traditions. For example, in the Old Testament, there's the idea of thou shalt not kill. There are no qualifiers in there. And even the idea that when mankind was created in the Garden of Eden, they were told that they are basically vegan, that God had provided plants, and that those plants were to be to them as meat. Other spiritual traditions say very much the same thing. And yet, we humans keep ending up killing each other, right? And we don't just kill each other, we kill lots of things. And remember, I bring this up to remind you that, for example, in the Old Testament, thou shalt not kill. I haven't seen any qualifiers on that. And in many traditions, just like don't kill. Yet we think it's okay to kill. However, this is where the challenge comes in, is every embodied being is killing. I've mentioned before, I'm killing bacteria and viruses. Well, I can't really kill a virus. I'm killing bacteria, fungi that are trying to get their toehold in my wonderful ecosystem. I moved some plants out of the way, and I think I accidentally killed some of those little roly-poly bugs or potato bugs or whatever you call them in your part of the world. I walk and I accidentally kill things. You breathe, I go bicycling, I get bugs up my nose, bugs in my eye, I kill them, right? But it's not intentional. So what Arjun's doing at the start of the Gita is, he's been living his life. And now that it's uncomfortable, now he wants spiritual advice. He's been killing people all along. But now that he has to fight in a civil war and kill people he knows, now he has a problem. And what I mentioned about spiritual maturity is, when we don't yet have spiritual maturity, we need hard and fast guidelines. Do this, do that. But these guidelines, if we watch other people in the world, are not followed. And in fact, they're impossible to follow. So this idea of don't kill, it's impossible as an embodied human being. So what do we do? And then there are other tenets in spiritual traditions. Another common one is don't lie. Parents, have you ever lied to or in front of your children? I remember being told, don't lie. Don't lie to your parents. And I found out about Santa Claus. If any young person is watching, I'm sorry, that spoiler alert. I found out Santa Claus wasn't real. It was my mom. And I actually felt pretty betrayed. I'm like, why am I thanking this imaginary person when it's my mom, who was working like 2 jobs at the time and going to school and still finding a way to raise kids as a single mother? Ma, you should have gotten the credit. So why don't we follow these tenets 100%? It's because as we get older, we realize that there's not a black and white world. It's shades of gray. And that sometimes killing is necessary. I mean, to eat, as human beings, we're basically killing something. We're killing animals or plants. Plants have lives too. It's very hard. So this is Arjun's dilemma. Is I hear this, and yet I see this. I'm supposed to kill, but all the spiritual tenets I've been taught by these people that I'm standing across the battlefield from say don't kill. In fact, these people I'm standing across the battlefield from are the ones that told me don't kill, don't lie, don't cheat. And he's been cheated out of his kingdom by those very people. So he's dealing with hypocrisy in the world and hypocrisy in himself. And the idea is he's got to see reality in the shades of gray that come with it. So when we talk about violence versus killing, I'm killing things all the time and I have no intention. And then sometimes I don't kill something and I think it might have been better. For example, it's coming up on the anniversary of my mother's passing, and I watched her die from leukemia. A long death. And I'd wished it could be shorter. But you can't do that. You have to watch your loved ones suffer. And now I've got another relative who has said, if anything like that happens to me, please do something about it. And then I think it's easy to say, oh, sure, I won't let you live. I think in a way that's violence, to make somebody suffer when there's absolutely no hope. That's my opinion from my experience. You can have your own opinion. And I think, oh, yes, relative, I can help you with that because I've seen this, but will I be able to? I mean, there's a reason this rule is in place. When we kill somebody voluntarily or something, it affects our soul. We grow calluses over our soul, so it doesn't affect us so much. And you can be violent without killing, too. I've seen that so much. We live by the Great Lakes, as I've mentioned, and there are people in other parts of this fine country who want to build a pipeline from the Great Lakes to their dry environs and take some water because it seems we got so much. But even to bring water to a desert, that's, in a way, it's bringing life, right? You can grow things, but the things that are already there, they're going to die. That's not their ecosystem, not what they're adapted to. It's going to change their whole way of being. And for us up here, I mean, if somebody truly needed the water, I can see it. But I have traveled to the Southwest, and when I see water there in a very dry place and people are under water restrictions and it's being used for golf courses, I personally find that challenging. And I think, isn't that kind of violent? Everyone has to answer this for themselves, and this is the crux of the Gita. You have to figure this out for yourself. So if you'd like my opinion from considering this, since I got this question, this is about finding yourself, a little s self versus the big S, your true self. If killing or other harmful things are happening because of your ego, it's violence. If the killing or other things are happening because that's the cycle of life and you have nothing to do with it, or it has to be done for you to keep your embodiment, if it comes from a deeper place in the world, in the cosmos, then killing can be nonviolent. One more example, and then we better get on to the practice, is mushrooms. We have mushrooms around here, and people forage and pick the shrooms. And some people die from eating the wrong mushroom every year. Somebody dies from eating the wrong mushrooms. And you could think, wow, the mushrooms killed them. The mushrooms are violent. The mushrooms make toxins to protect themselves from being eaten. The mushrooms aren't being violent. They're being themselves. Something else is eating them. They're not killing on purpose. They're not being violent. And I could give a lot of other examples, but I'm sure you can think of some, it's the mushroom's way of being. And if we make the wrong choice to eat them, yes, they're killing us, but they're not being violent about it. It's just the way mushrooms are. So I encourage you to, this is the hard work of spiritual growth. Can you see from the ego perspective, which is Arjun, or can you see from the spiritual perspective, which is Krishna? And whichever one you act from will make a difference as to how your karmas influence the world and yourself, your true self. Well, we could get into more discussion about that, but let's leave it for there. Get out of our heads and into our bodies with a little practice. Well, practice is always a good time to check yourself. Are you approaching a practice from your ego or from the benefit of something deeper? So I'll check in with my knee. All right, knee, let's do it. Let's switch. Okay, let's settle in for our contemplation. We'll talk more about spiritual maturity tomorrow because there's more we can say about it. But as we settle in, I'm going to tell you who I'm dedicating the practice to today, to Vera and to Jane. And also, this is one of the life's little coincidences I didn't realize when I was talking yesterday. I believe it was yesterday about, being in peril on the sea and stay out of the water because water can kill you. We had a drowning in Lake Erie over the weekend, and there was just a little remembrance ceremony. Lake Erie kills too. It's not violent. But a little boy drowned in Lake Erie here in Cleveland. And Anthony Jr., this practice is for you. Let's contemplate acting from your ego versus acting from yourself. Can you even tell the difference? Can you go within and check what's coming from my ego and what's coming from myself? Because that's a huge step on the spiritual path. Let's give it a try. Thank you. Welcome back. Thank you for being part of this. Sorry this went a little longer. That's one of the reasons we also have the weekly classes, so we can spend more time talking about complex subjects. And next series, we're focusing on discernment. So if you want to join, just below, we've got some information in the link. Second, if I accidentally said Lake Erie was violent, what I meant is it's dangerous. I can't remember if I said violent or dangerous, but it's dangerous, but it's not violent. We need to respect that. And third, thank you so much for being part of this. We'll see what happens tomorrow. So until then,